everyone. It's Alicia. And thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Eat Me podcast. As you can see, I'm still, if you're watching this on YouTube, but you see I'm trying to get my hair together here. I just got out of the shower, got ready to go, and it's like, I need to record my podcast episode. So you caught me mid prepping to get together here. I thought I had a little more time. But anyway, it is so good to be back. Last week, I didn't record because I lost my voice. If you watched or if you listened to the car confessions, I talked about that as well. I've got something going on here too. So many things happening. Anyway, it'll be fine. But yeah, I lost my voice. I went to the Kendrick Lamar concert, which was amazing. And I'm telling you, I screamed, I sang, did all the things and I paid the price. So all that to say, I had to take a rest last week, but now I'm back and I'm so glad to be here with you all. Y'all, I think I have a little gray hair here, all the way real. What is going on there? That's going to drive me crazy. But anyway, I'll get that together later on. But anyway, how are you all? Hopefully you're doing well. And like I said, I'm glad to be back this week. And I felt like this week I had to just talk about, because this has been on my mind for a while, the idea around famine in Gaza and how it is affecting the people there. One thing I did look up, I looked up a few things, but there was a few articles I looked up, but initially what I looked up was starvation ketosis in Gaza. And so you're probably like, what is starvation ketosis? So let's just start there. So starvation ketosis is a metabolic state where the body is basically like deprived of sufficient carbohydrates and begins to break down fat for energy, leading to production of ketones. The process can occur due to prolonged fasting, severe dietary restrictions, or conditions hindering nutrient absorption. Then it's like actually an AI overview, which is so funny. Like when you Google now, they give you these AI overviews, but then it goes on to say starvation and ketosis in Gaza. Recent reports highlight a concerning rise of malnutrition and food insecurity in Gaza, raising concerns about the prevalence of starvation and its potential impact on ketosis. And they say, here's why. And, the AI, it's only going to produce what is basically fed to it. But we'll keep going. So here's why. So widespread food insecurity. Gaza faces a severe food crisis with a significant portion of the population, including children, experiencing an acute food insecurity and malnutrition. This lack of access to adequate nutrition can force the body to rely on stored fat for energy, leading to ketosis. Evidence of starvation. Reports from organizations like American Near East Refugee Aid, and their acronym is ANERA or ANERA. I could be saying, that acronym wrong, but we'll just go with ANERA, suggests increasing instances of ketone detection in urine samples, indicating a rise in starvation-induced ketosis in Gaza. And this is the third, here's why. Malnutrition and its consequences. Malnutrition can impair physical and cognitive development, weaken the immune system, and make individuals more susceptible to illness. In severe cases, starvation can be fatal. And then it goes on to talk about like the consequences of ketosis, like muscle wasting, vitamin and electrolyte imbalances. And then also one thing that really just brings it home for me is organ damage. In severe cases, prolonged starvation can damage the vital organs like the liver and kidneys. So it goes on to say, in conclusion, food insecurity and malnutrition in Gaza raise significant concerns about the potential for starvation-induced ketosis and its detrimental effects on the population's health, particularly children. And I wanted to talk about this today because for me, I feel like, one, we don't understand or we're not actually put in the position to understand what starvation does to the body. Cleveland Clinic goes on to say, and it kind of breaks it down a bit more, it says ketosis is a metabolic state that occurs when your body burns fat for energy instead of glucose, so meaning sugar. The keto diet has many possible benefits, including potential weight loss, increased energy, and treating chronic illness. However, the diet can produce side effects, including keto breath and constipation. And keto breath, for the most part, It's basically like your breath kinda has like a sweeter, type of smell. Like when people smell your breath, it's like a sweeter smell, and that's because of the ketosis that's taking place in your body. Now this article goes on to talk about like it talks about like the diets that actually can, bring about ketosis and not so much about starvation, but it does break down. I wanted to talk about that because it just basically kind of gives you more of an idea of what's happening. So the fat that's in your body, that when ketosis is activated in your body, the fat in your body actually is starts to be basically burned because you're not getting the proper glucose needed to sustain your body. So your body goes for the next best thing, which is the fat in your body. And so I just wanted to just point that out because I know the other thing we talked about, it kind of gave it a little bit, but I just want you to really understand what that looks like. Beyond those 2 things, I found an article that was posted, what day was that? 6 days ago. Is that the one? No. I looked at that one, but there was another one that I wanted to talk about. Here it is. And it's 6 days ago as well from Al Jazeera. The other one's from BBC. I'll share both of them, but I really wanted to talk more about the Al Jazeera article. It was posted on the 12th of May, May 2025. And the title of this article is Famine Stalking Across Gaza. 500,000 face starvation. And it says analysis. So all 2.1 people in Gaza, the Gaza Strip, at critical risk if Israeli blockage persists, says the report. And it's when we looked at that initial AI explanation of the starvation in Gaza, excuse me, y'all, a little water here. I got a little annoyed. And you might be wondering why. Like, I got annoyed because the way they described this whole starvation that's taking place in Gaza, it was more so like, oh, they just, you know, deemed it food insecurity. And while it is food insecurity, it is a forced food insecurity. It is not because they can't grow crops. It's not because they don't understand how to work the land. It's not because they just, somehow miraculously just don't have food in their region. It's because it's been forced on them to not have food by way of the Israeli government. And so it's really important for me, especially when I'm reading articles, to really like sift through the mumbo jumbo, right? And that to me is mumbo jumbo. Because, like I said, AI is fed what it's fed by way of whoever's producing this information. So, it is what it is. It's a generated system. But all that to say, when we use certain words, particularly in the media, we have to be careful to just kind of like brush it off, right? Because when you think of food insecurities, it's like they just don't have access to proper food, right? They don't have access to, the things that we all like a lot of people here in America have access to. Most people in America have access to food. That there are some food insecure people for sure. Like we can't dismiss that at all. And that's a whole other rabbit hole we could go down. But when we're talking about something like this, it's a whole different ballgame because there's also war involved, there's genocide involved. There's so many things involved here where the people in Palestine are truly being forcefully starved. And I like I said, I just could not go without talking about this. So the article goes on here and it says Israelis blockade threatens the entire population of the Gaza Strip. So the entire population, we're talking about 2.1 million people, threatens the entire population of the Gaza Strip with famine and faces 500,000. A global hunger monitor has warned. A report by the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, their acronym is IPC, initiative released on Monday said that the Gaza Strip is still confronted with a critical risk of famine. After over a year and a half of devastating war, I'm saying that in air quotes, with the vast majority of it approximately 2.1 million people at severe risk. Some 70 days after the Israeli military halted the entry of food. So they're not getting food, water, medicine, all other life-saving supplies into Gaza. The report said goods indispensable for people's survival are either depleted or expected to run out in the coming weeks. And so, like, I guess for me, when I'm seeing this, I'm reading this, at least for me, I am there's like a visceral feeling that comes through my body. I just feel sick. I just feel so frustrated. I feel so helpless in so many ways because it's like I'm reading this and it's like we're reading a story of characters. You understand what I'm saying? As opposed to this being somebody's mother, somebody's daughter, somebody's, baby, somebody's husband, somebody's brother. Like these are people that are going through this that don't know, where their next meal's coming from, that are just completely at the, hands or just waiting for, someone to come through and provide something. Now, I did see, and you might have seen this in the news, where China flew over Gaza and drop some aid to them. But I mean, that's few and far between, right? So they're just waiting for things like that to happen, like just random miracles to take place, and by the hands of other governments, which is unbelievable to me that the governments that are around the other countries that are closer are not providing this type of assistance. But like I said, that's a whole other story. But like I said, when we're talking about this particular subject right now, Israel is really in a state of doing evil things that I just can't even imagine a human doing. And, many people will argue that this is all due to October 7th. And, not taken away from the fact that these people died on October 7th. There was like a little over 1,100 people that passed away that were killed due to Hamas's attacks. And you can't dismiss that. Like, you can't dismiss life, period. But to then continue on this type of behavior where you're bombing areas, you're completely wiping out places, and you're causing starvation, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get you wanted to retaliate at the time that things happened during October 7th, fine. But this has been going on over a year and a half. And not only has it been going over a year and a half, you're including things like this, like starvation in the mix. And so for me, when I think about what, especially this country who is funding a lot of this that's going on over there in Israel and well, in Gaza, they're supporting Israel by way of doing these things. I think about the things that this administration and even prior administrations, they claim they care for children. And I always go back to this when, especially when I talk about kids and the disparities and the inequities that we see as it relates to kids. Whose kids are you protecting? Whose kids are you really trying to fight for? And because honestly, we can even talk about in the United States, like not even the kids here. It's all talk. Because even down to the kids here, we still have mass shootings that take place in schools, and there's no, attempt of regulation around that. It's left up to the schools by way of trainings to, have these lockdown drills and this, that, and the other. But even with those types of drills, it's like if you look at the structure of the building and different classrooms and how they're set up, if you have glass windows or if you have a door that has a really large glass pane and it's facing right into the classroom and there's not really anywhere for someone to hide from that, where's the safety in that? A school's doing the best that they can. And it's like, I don't know that the government is thinking about that as well. Whole other story. But you see what I'm saying? Like it's like when we're talking about we want to, safeguard our kids from, the transgender agenda and this, that, and the other. But it's like these things aren't killing kids. What's actually killing kids? If we're thinking about America, let's talk about America really quick. If we're thinking about what's killing kids in America, guns, right? We think about, you know, suicide, different things of that nature. The things that our society is claiming that is causing so much harm to kids more times than not, it's not. It's not at all. If anything, children that are transgender are experiencing, the neglect and the discrimination causing them to have risk for harming themselves to the point of a fatal situation, but not to the point where someone has groomed them to be transgender and now they're gonna die. Like, that makes no sense. Like, really think that through. That's a whole other story. But back to this whole issue with, Gaza. I just don't understand how we as a country aren't saying more about this and protesting more about this. And listen, I hear people, or, the arguments of, listen, we've got our own fish to fry here. We got a lot going on here. I totally hear you. There's so much going on everywhere. And honestly, another rabbit hole we won't go down, but I feel like all this is by design, right? Because if there's so many things going on, it's like, what do you even latch to? What do you even fight for? And I think with anything, you just take a bite, one bite at a time out of a large elephant type of situation, right? And this is my large bite, or my bite of the large elephant right now. I can't be in a position to, like, sit back and continue to watch this and not raise my voice and not use my platform in the way to talk about this. Children are dying in Gaza. And based off the definition I shared with you, when it comes to starvation, even if they're not dying, their organs can be damaged. These people have been in a mode of starvation for quite some time. And if you're chronically being starved, your body's in a state of ketosis, you are damaging your body. And so for me, as a healthcare provider, when I think of ketosis, I think of type 1 diabetics. I deal with type 1 diabetics a lot in my field, a lot of pediatric kids, or pediatric patients rather. Well, not a lot, but there are children who do have type 1 diabetes, and I work with them on a daily basis. And that's one of the things that we are trying to prevent on a daily basis is ketosis. We don't want their blood sugars getting too high to the point where that happens, because that can cause some major damage. And to imagine to be in that state for, X amount of time, here you are damaging your body, not on purpose, particularly these people in Gaza, because it's being forced on you. It's being forced on you for your body to basically work against you. That is devastating to me. And that's like one of the cruelest forms of torture in my mind, especially for children, because they rely on adults. They rely on us to take care of them. They rely on us to, you know, be that person that's going to provide food, that's going to provide shelter, it's going to provide safety. And to be a parent, like I'm a mom. I can't even imagine the mothers, the fathers, the aunts, the uncles, or whoever's caring for these children in Gaza, because some of these children have lost their families, they've lost their parents, they've lost so much. And so for the ones that are providing care for them that can't supply what these kids need, I can't imagine how they feel and how helpless they feel. It's just wild to me that we're just completely dismissing all of that. And I say we because I feel like in some days, and this is me being completely transparent, some days it's just too much for me to just, delve into and really, like, put my attention towards, but and that's a privilege. That's a privilege. And in my mind, I have to take care of myself, right? I can't constantly be in this state of like, oh my God, where I'm blanking on words here, but where I'm just constantly engulfed in, you know, all of this tragedy. Because like I said, I do have to take care of myself. I have to care for myself to then come back to still be of service. But it's heartbreaking. It is so heartbreaking to me. I just don't understand. And so the article, I just want to go back to the article, guys. The article goes on to say, so this section here is called Starvation Looms for 1 in 5 in Gaza. Conditions have significantly worsened since the previous IPC report released in October, with a higher percentage of the population facing more severe levels of food insecurity. The entire population is expected to face crisis or worse levels of acute food insecurity if Israel's siege persists. 1 in 5 is thought to likely face starvation between May and September. Authorities in the bombarded territory said last week that at least 57 people had starved to death as a result of Israel's blockade. Widespread acute malnutrition is anticipated, the analysis added, especially in mostly destroyed northern Gaza and in Rafah in the southernmost part of the strip. There's a little section here on the article, and it says where I guess someone posted something on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. It says the Gaza Strip, approximately 2.1 million people, continues to facing a critical risk of famine following 19 months of conflict, mass displacement, and humanitarian aid blockade. Extreme hunger is deepening every day. 1 in 5, like I said, face starvation. And so it breaks down here, shows you basically how where in the Gaza Strip there's the emergency and the whole strip is red. So red is the emergency. And then there's little stars within the red that show the risk of famine. And in every part of the strip, there is risk of famine. It just blows my mind, literally blows my mind that people are willing to do this for the sake of, you know, colonialism, for the sake of just taking over spaces because they feel like they are entitled to it and doing it in such a way that is such an inhumane way. But the thing is, when you think about it, historically, this has been the way that many people have done this, have taken over certain lands and erased the indigenous people of those lands by way of starvation, causing illness in various ways, flat out just killing people. And we're living through that. And we've been living through that. And I think it, you know, at least for me, I can't say for everyone else, you know, this time, this day and age with technology has really opened up our eyes to this. And still and yet, so many people are just kind of going on business as usual, which is wild to me. And it's funny because I saw a reel on TikTok and there was a man talking about this actual subject, but he spun it as there's no way in Nazi Germany and just around, I guess, like the world. I can't remember how he, termed this, but basically saying there's no way people in that area did not know those things were happening. There's just no way because even us seeing what we're seeing now, and we're not even that close, how could you not know something like that was happening that close to you? And I could be wrong and he could be wrong, but I can't imagine that many people being sent to the slaughter, so many Jewish people being killed, being malnourished, being tortured. How could you not know that many people were being treated like that? And then fast forward to now, we know it. And still, the complacency is through the roof, in my opinion. I just feel like we need to say more. It's wild to me. It's so wild. Here we are. So the article goes on and it talks more about, things. So it says calls for urgent action as food prices skyrocket 3,000%. So food prices in Gaza are soaring excessively. The IPC report points to a 1,000% increase in the price of wheat flour since February in Deir el Bala, I could be saying that wrong, in central Gaza and in Khan Yunis in the south. The analysis calls for urgent action to the end of hostilities, allow unhindered humanitarian access, and protect civilian and aid workers who have been killed by Israeli army in record numbers. According to the latest figures on Monday by Gaza's Ministry of Health, Israeli forces have killed at least 52,862 Palestinians and wounded 119,648 since the Hamas-led October 7th, 2023 attacks on southern Israel, which killed an estimated 1,139 people and resulted in more than 200 people taken captive into Gaza. By not raising awareness and showing things is a disservice to the people of Palestine, and even a disservice to us as well, because these people are our brothers and sisters, point blank, period. And if we cannot help our fellow brothers and sisters, then what are we doing? What are we doing on this planet as people if we're not willing to help each other? Seriously. A lot of the things that have happened that have caused a lot of anger and, reasons for war and all these different things are things that are done by people in certain administrations, certain groups that are like terrorist groups. These aren't the people that are living in those places. I can't bring that home more than what I've shared in so many other episodes where I've talked about Palestine and Gaza and even the Congo. Like there's so many places around the world that are in the same situation. I just really feel like we have to continue to raise our voices around these injustices. Because, like I said, a lot of the things that are happening are not because the people that are there are causing the strife and harm. It's certain groups. It's not the entire population of the Palestinian people that are doing this. They're suffering because of these choices. And that's what's so horrible about this. So I'll share this information in the show notes. I'm doing the best that I can with raising my voice, and I hope you are doing the same. Humanity is just that we are all human. There's no hierarchy. And I think we need to realize that now more than ever, especially even now here in the United States. A lot of people are realizing like the entitlements that, were what you thought were your entitlements, you're realizing was all a facade. A lot of these things are coming to pass and people are realizing, oh, we're all in this together. We have to fight together. There is no, oh, I'm better than you because of my skin color or my financial situation or whatever. Unless you were like crazy, crazy wealthy or rich, you know what I'm saying? Like we're all in this together at this point. So we have to help each other and raise awareness around the injustices that are happening, not just here in this country, but like I said, in Gaza, in the Congo, um, just everywhere where you're seeing marginalized people just being treated like crap, dispensable in many ways for things like different resources in their area that they have no control over. It's just that what happened to be where they live, and then they're being exploited, you know? So, yeah, I will share this article in the show notes. Guys, let's keep doing what we can do. Like I said, humanity is just that. We are all human. There's no hierarchy. I love you guys. And, I always say this, let's just keep on keeping on. Thank you for joining me this week for the Eat Me podcast. I will see you next week. Free Palestine.